My name is Lewis Hills. I'm just a regular guy living a regular life. Was raised by my aunt since I was 7. She raised both me and my younger cousin Drew. Drew is a crafty guy. Drew got into a lot of fights when we were younger. Did a lot of crazy things. Every single time Drew did something, I would have to get him out of whatever he was in. We'd take on 20 some odd people all because of Drew. Well, Drew wanted to be Drew. It eventually got to a point where I needed to get away from it all. It became toxic. I needed to take care of Lewis, not Drew for once. Drew began to act erratic when he found out I was moving. He began to become more reckless. He wrecked multiple cars, even purposely got himself arrested. My aunt was done with him after all of this. I felt like he just wanted our attention at this point. So, I continued to keep my distance. I began taking college courses for criminal justice. Auntie always said I have a knack for solving mysteries. I believe Drew took this as if I was trying to be better than him. About 6 months had passed by and my aunt had reached out. Hello?
Lewis?
Hey, Auntie. How are you doing?
Not too well. Something is going on with Drew. Like, this is different this time. He hasn't been home in 2 months. I wanted to leave it alone at first because I thought he was just acting out again. But he's not in jail. His friends haven't heard from him, and his room hasn't been touched at all. I know you wanted to move on from stuff like this, but I'm asking you, please, Lewis. Can you see what's going on with him?
Yeah, I'll be over soon. And just like that, I was roped back into Drew's messes. I felt like the cleanup crew once again. I made it to my aunt's house and looked around for any clues. My aunt was right. Nothing was moved or tampered in his room for what looked like months.
Lewis, what are you doing in my room?
And this is where the hunt began. Drew proceeded to grab a bed that was conveniently near the door.
Lewis!
The heck are you doing, Drew? You almost hit me.
That's the point.
Drew, what are you doing? Oh my God!
I dodged the attack quickly and made my way to the far corner of Drew's room. I had no way out. But that's when I noticed something with his version of Drew. The attacks weren't sporadic like Drew's behaviors. The swings were with a purpose. This version of Drew wasn't acting out or anything. He was meticulous and precise. Something the regular Drew would never be. This version of Drew stood there, staring at me for what felt like minutes. He was analyzing me. His eyes finally locked with mine, and he stood at a straighter stance. I knew from this moment this wasn't Drew. Drew would always slouch and would find any reasons to not make eye contact with you. This version of Drew began to form a smirk on his face. He nodded his head and said,
Just leave it alone, Lewis. You don't want any part of this.
This version of Drew then left the house. I keep saying this version because this wasn't Drew. In one of my classes at college, we learned about the psychology of the brain. The brain is split into 2 sides. The left side and the right side of the brain corresponds to different characteristics. The left brain is more logic-based. This is where you find reasoning, sequential thinking, and analytical processing. That's what the new version of Drew was seemingly acting on. The right side of the brain is more emotional, creative, and imagination-based. Now that's the Drew I knew. I was puzzled standing in Drew's room. Both me and my aunt stood silent for minutes, processing everything. I could tell by her tear-filled eyes that she felt like she lost her son. I stood up and gave her a tight hug. I'll get him back and figure all this out. I promise, I said as I stared back at her. I then went back into Drew's room to find anything that might lead me to a new clue. That version of him clearly came back into the room for something. That's when I saw it. Since we were about 15, Drew would always have a notebook with him. He would draw what his dreams would show him, as he used to say. Laying across his bed was the key to it all. A notebook. I rushed home and analyzed the pages. I found strange drawings all over the pages. These were elaborate drawings, almost as though they were representations of a new universe. I saw nothing but drawings, but had no idea what they meant. At this point, I ended up giving up on the notebook and started checking Drew's social media. He last made a post about 2 months ago. The post was about this weird drawing that this page had shared. It almost seemed similar to the drawing in Drew's notebook. Drew had commented on the post. He said, "I'm seeing these same designs in my dreams." A few other people commented on the post as well. I went to each and every one of their pages, and they all seemed to have the exact same characteristics as the old Drew. They were reckless and carefree, just doing things for people's attention. This is a pattern, and I know how to get to the bottom of it. The next day, I went to class, brainstorming what to do next. I overheard a few classmates talking about a famous inventor named Isao Tama. Isao disappeared about a year ago. He was the lead engineer of a company called Brained. Brained was found on the go reinventing technologies in the top fields of America. Isao challenged many norms in different fields, but it all paid off. He became a multi-trillionaire. Now, how does someone like that just disappear? I mean, no number of enemies in the world could cause that. He literally has the amount of money that small nations would dream of. I guess that's a mystery for another day. After class, I got the idea to check on one of the people that I saw comment on the post from before. After a few hours of searching for an address, I found the house. 112 Barnell Street. This is it. Before I could ring the doorbell, a neighbor yelled out.
Hey,
He stumbled across the street with slight wonder in his eyes.
you know Michaela?
Yeah. We used to go to high school together. I was just in the area and decided to say hi.
Man, you ain't heard?
Heard what?
She been missing for almost half a year. Don't nobody know where she went. If you ask me, I think it was one of her friends. She'd always get into it with him. Last time they was over, they got into a big argument. They said she crashed one of the girls' cars. They kept saying she was, what's the word? Sporadic. Yeah, she was too sporadic to be around him or something like that, bro.
There was that word again. Sporadic. Just like Drew. I tried poking for more information. Was she gone the next day?
Yeah, didn't see her or hear any noises from her direction of the street at all. That's pretty odd, because it's usually some music playing from her house, something loud enough to hear, but not loud enough to, cause any issues, if you feel me.
You said her friends called her sporadic, right? Did you notice any of that behavior?
I mean, you could say that. She did from time to time do random stuff, park sideways in the driveway and park perfectly fine the next day, walk out the house yelling and screaming 1 second, then walk back inside to come back out minutes later as if she ain't even own nothing. It's weird. To be honest, a lot of the things that she did was kind of like that. I mean, I could give you a whole story for real.
I see. Well, I'd better get going. Didn't mean to question you like this.
Oh, no, it's cool. I'll be concerned too if that was my friend.
I eventually made it back home and started reflecting the conversation from those moments. I kept pondering what connection I could make with Drew and Michaela. That's when I finally got the idea. Months went by, and I did everything I could. I wrecked cars, got into fights. Everything Drew did, I replicated it down to the T. Eventually it happened. I was at home, studying, when it happened. The heck is that?
You should have stayed away, Lewis!
Drew, what the heck is going on with you? That was lights off for me. Before I fully woke back up, I smelled a burning of metal. It was a strange smell. Nothing like I've smelled before. I started opening my eyes slowly as I tasted the bitter, dry air. A massive headache rushed to me as I finally started to gain consciousness. I raised my head to see the massive interior of a metallic lair. I tried nudging my arms but quickly realized I was restrained. A blue light flashed to my left. I rotated my body to see what was causing that light. In my amazement, I saw vats with brains in them. Human brains. What the heck is this?
This is research. Or fate.
A large metallic tentacle arm began circling me before stopping at the base of my head.
Welcome to the right brain, Lewis.
Before I knew it, I was over. I no longer existed in the physical world. The tentacle pierced my skull, ending it all